Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shabazz. Thank you all for joining us today. It's 1 p.m. here in Toronto, so I think we'll get started. Just some quick housekeeping before we kick things off. This session is being recorded today, and everyone that attends will receive a recording in their email. Additionally, there is a Q&A box available for any questions you may have throughout the session. At the end of the webinar today, we will spend some time answering your questions. So please, as they come up, feel free to share them with us. And with that, welcome to our webinar today, where we'll be showing you how you can use tools from our new Caseware suite to create opportunities for your practice today. For those of you who joined us last week or the week before, you know that our new suite contains cloud-based applications that can help you with all areas of your practice. For example, there's a PBC tool to help you exchange documents and records with your clients, a cloud-based review and compilation tool to help you complete full review and compilation engagements in the cloud with integrated tax, a cloud-based audit tool to help you do full audit engagements in the cloud, an analytical tool to help you analyze data to identify risk areas, and obviously our hybrid suite that you're all familiar with. Today we'll specifically focus on Caseware Hybrid and how you can continue your way of working with working papers, the one that you're all used to, or many of you are used to, while still embedding and integrating some of the cloud features into your working papers to harness those efficiencies. A little bit about myself. My name is Shabazz, and I lead the customer success function for Caseware in Canada. As a CPA myself, I spent the last 5 years in public practice at regional, national, and Big Four accounting firms in various service lines. Alongside me this week is Rohit Kundu, who is an enterprise accounting executive here at Caseware. Rohit has deep expertise helping firms of all sizes evaluate their engagement workflow to find unique solutions that work for them today and into the future. So before we get into the tools itself, I think that similar to last session, the one before, we want to just talk quickly about how the ways of working have changed for accountants over the past few months. I think that for many of us, we've been able to work from home, or we've been forced to work from home, and it's been quite a relaxing experience. For a lot of the other people, and this is probably where I fall in, it's been work from home, but not as relaxing. Um, all in all, we can all agree that it's been a very different busy season for accounting firms, especially with the fact that there's been a 69% increase in remote work for professional service firms. Whether you went full work from home or skeletal staff or anything in between, all in all, it was very different than past busy seasons, and it's a period of rapid technological adoption. Apart from accounting firms, even on the consumer side, I think all of us have had to embrace technology very quickly and very differently over the past few months, whether it be using technology to get your groceries or to make purchases, or whether it be using technology to collaborate with each other like we are today on GoToWebinar. We've had to adopt technology to change the way we work and the way we live our lives. I think going into the period after COVID, or even as things open up again, we'll see even more embracing of technology. For example, we see contract tracing apps coming in to help identify the spread of COVID to the communities. We see companies using cameras to monitor temperature for their staff, which is important as people come back into the workplace. But I think that transitioning to COVID and after COVID has been a period for accounting firms that's been very different, and even in the future when we look forward, it's going to be continue to be different and include a lot of uncertainty. I think all in all, for us, we've been looking for ways over the past few years as the profession shifted towards a more cloud-based model, or a model of using different services to engage with our clients. We're still doing that today, but we're just doing it at different levels. And I think that COVID has only accelerated the accounting firm journey, but it hasn't really changed it. When you look at the way forward, I think that the way forward, it's tough to say what it's going to be like for any specific practice. And so I think the best way I would describe it is that the way forward is just different. I think every firm can agree today that they're not working the same way they did 6 months ago, and some might be further along in their cloud journey or the tech journey, or with the service offerings, and some might be on a different spectrum altogether. But all in all, it's different than what they're used in the past, and I think it's going to continue to be different. I think with uncertainty and change, it's going to continue to disrupt the way we work and challenge the way we work. I think some firms will continue to work from home going into this recovery phase, and that might just be because of the efficiencies they've been able to harness. I think first and foremost, firms are reevaluating how much of physical presence they actually need for their clients, especially if their clients aren't going to be attending. And I think secondly, which I think is going to be a major advantage to firms that embrace this remote model, is going to be the ability to tap into a wider net of staff and expertise. I think, at least in my experience when I was at firms, staffing was always a challenge for firms of all sizes, and whether that be retaining staff or making sure that staff are consistently engaged. And I think that being able to work remote has really alleviated, or at least will, or could alleviate some of these pressures. You now have the ability to tap into such a wide net of staff and expertise even. I mean, you can really hire someone across anywhere in the country, or even beyond the country if you wanted to. And with that, you bring diverse opinions, diverse schools of thought, and obviously diverse experiences and technical capabilities for your firm to offer different service lines. One thing that is also very important, I think a tremendous opportunity for all firms, is the fact that you don't have to limit going remote for just your staff. I think that with people adopting technology more and more today, we're in such a unique position today to be able to leverage this adoption of technology with clients even. So whereas historically an accounting firm limited their approach or their reach to 100 kilometers within their physical presence, now I think that you will see more and more firms, and again, the cloud firms have benefited from this for a long time now, but you'll see more and more firms using digital marketing to target and acquire clients across the country, even in other jurisdictions. We're seeing, for example, a lot of Canadian firms trying to acquire clients in the US, and with the favorable exchange rate, it's a lot more favorable for US companies to pay a Canadian accountant to do that kind of work. And I think we'll continue to see those kinds of shifts into the profession. And that's just one example of how a change in the profession can bring a disruption, but with disruption comes opportunity. I think this disruption is very, again, going back to my earlier point, it's something that we're always working towards, but that just got accelerated. When you look at the workforce today, millennials make the largest portion of the workforce, and millennials are the type of people that they've always been in tune with technology because they grew up online, and they want to be able to have flexible working hours so that they can balance other commitments in life. They actively want to partake in the gig economy, which we're seeing more and more of. And I think that this new way of working is really going to appeal to them. But on the flip side, if you look at Canadian businesses or small and medium-sized businesses in Canada, in the last 2 years, 40% of these businesses were started by millennials. So I think when we look at not only who we're engaging with at work, but who we're engaging with in terms of current and prospective clients, we'll see that more and more businesses are started by these people who want this kind of work environment. They want to be able to contact their advisors remotely, share things remotely, or even to just make sure that their advisors are in tune with technology and adopting technology in their way of working. That's really what we're going to highlight to you today. I think that as we continue to reopen accounting firms and even businesses in general, it's going to be interesting to see how firms react to this. I mean, like I mentioned before, you look at airports and because they're obviously one of the ones that are the pioneer of innovation when it comes to opening up in a safe way, just given the nature of the industry they're in. You're seeing thermal cameras to monitor all passengers traveling temperature. You see, I saw just yesterday, there's, and again, I think all businesses will get this, but motion activated hand sensors for elevators. Something just as small as that, like you think about the past, we'd go into an elevator and push a button, but now who wants to really push a button in an elevator? So you can signal or motion with your hand which floor you want to go to. And I think it's going to be things like that that we'll see more and more of it. And again, like I think the accounting profession is lucky in the sense that COVID necessitated a change, but we were ready for, and we're working towards this change for a long time now. So I think that as we open back, the one thing that I think is a key takeaway is for every firm to evaluate their tech stack and to make sure that it meets the needs for them today and even into the future, for not only what they expect, but for what their clients expect of them and what their staff expects of them as well. So keeping all that in mind, at Caser, we've actually been very fortunate that these themes that we're seeing emerging in the accounting profession have been driving themes for us for many years now in developing our products. For those of you who followed the development of our cloud tools and our cloud applications, you'll see that we always follow three key themes. We believe that data is really important to engagements in the future, and whether that means using data to drive it to be more efficient. So for example, scoping in content based on the trial balance you've entered, or tailoring your procedures and questions based on what's in the engagement. We've been working towards that for a long time now. We feel like Analytics AI is an embodiment of how important AI is in your engagement. I think with data, clients are expecting more, and I think it's going to be the artificial analysis that we can use to provide clients with more insights and value into the data, but also on our end to make our engagements more efficient with more intelligent risk scoping and guided engagements. And I think the last part, I think, isn't a surprise to anyone. We've always been working towards making our tools easier for you to use as your practice evolves, and collaboration in cloud computing is only going to increase now that people are used to a new way of working. So a little bit about our platforms for those of you that are not familiar. There's the desktop working papers, which many people in Canada use, love, and trust, and have for over 30 years. But we also have our full cloud solutions, which we showed over the last 2 weeks. Last week, Aaron Leckie and myself talked about the audit solution, which is doing a full audit in the cloud. And the week before that, Aaron Oliver and I spoke about doing reviews and compilations in the cloud. What we're going to talk about today with Rohit and I is going to be what we like to refer to as the desktop or hybrid approach. And in this approach, really the goal is that for firms that want to start leveraging those cloud technologies, whether it be analytics to in your engagements for more risk scoping, whether it be portals to meet the needs of your clients and their expectations to exchange documents and records electronically, they're able to do all that, but while balancing the challenge of, hey, I don't want to completely change the way I'm working because my staff just aren't ready for it yet. Although I firmly believe that every practice is different, and in some practices your staff might be very much ready for it, maybe even more ready than the decision makers who are making the decision to adapt the technology. But what this approach does is allows you to harness those efficiencies from those cloud-based tools while not significantly changing the current workflow. Like, you'll still be working in working papers, and Rohit's going to demonstrate today how easy it is when it comes to a learning curve perspective to adopt something like this. So I'll give it to Rohit now, who's going to speak a little bit more about the tools.
Perfect. Thank you, Shahbaz. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining us on our last bit of our presentation series here. As Shahbaz mentioned, we definitely provided a lot of perspective on innovative ways to approach review, compilation, tax, innovative ways of approaching audit, and applying a more data-driven model. But why is Casework moving towards a more data-driven engagement? For the last 30 years in Casework's existence, we've provided a platform. And as we see a new workforce emerging into the market, they're less platform-driven, but more end result and end solution-driven, meaning where in the past we provided a platform for you to build on, the demand now is more, we'd like to see the end solution already built when we adopt technologies. So, but beyond that, data now doesn't live in one place, it lives in many. You have desktop accounting packages, you have Excel data, you have online accounting packages like QuickBooks, Xero, coming into the segment by providing more efficient workflows for the end user itself. So we need to find a more innovative way of acquiring data, and we'll take a look at that today. Then once you acquire that data, understanding the entity, understanding what influences the risk, bringing in the trial balance, understanding what accounts for material, which then drives the risk, which then allows you to gather your pre-planning, your planning, your risk assessment, identifying areas of concerns, which would then drive your additional procedures if additional work is needed, which then drives the ability to document that information, which then finally drives towards the deliverables, which is the audit report, the financial statement, and maybe insights to what's going on within the operation of the organization, which you would want to share with the client to say, hey, these are areas of improvements that you could consider. Now, all of that, Casework is looking to power that through the use of methodology, through the use of analytics, through the use of artificial intelligence. We're looking at opportunities of seeing how blockchain could potentially contribute to that. How do we incorporate third-party data into that workflow so it gives you better depth of information what you're looking at? So why are we actually working towards that? Mainly because Casework would like to become a one platform provider, where today you're already using it for assurance, tax, and reporting. Why not integrate that for your collaboration, your insights, the data flows, your engagement management, your practice management, incorporate all the way from assurance to the audit, to the tax, to reporting on the financials, being able to leverage data analytics for different parts of your audit, whether it's the planning stage or the pre-engagement stage, or when you're actually doing the ad hoc and data mining of the transactions to be able to identify additional opportunities of improvements that you could recommend to your client. So let's get to it. Let's actually take a look at what a new hybrid world looks like. Now, when we talk about hybrid, we're talking about the central hub, which is Caseware Cloud, and we'll show you some components of it. Caseware Cloud essentially allows you to, one, sync your working paper files in real time collaboratively with others. I know, Shahbaz, your time in public practice, you wish you had that capability, right?
Definitely, Rohit. Yeah, that would really help for some of the firms at least. Yeah.
Yeah, because we see all the information stored on one computer or one file server. You have to use VPN or Citrix to be able to. So it's a bit taxing on the IT infrastructure to be able to do that.
I think even from a speed perspective, Ro, just to add to that, I think what you mentioned was absolutely correct, right? The taxing the IT, but even from like a speed and efficiency, like it's all the challenge if you're out on an audit and there's multiple engagement members on that audit and you're trying to sync the file back and forth to your VPN, wherever it is, and everyone it's slow for everyone. You can't open a file. I think that was all probably the most difficult part of not being able to have the real-time cloud syncing.
Yeah. I completely understand. I would be frustrated too when I come in and I realize, oh, someone already worked on this part of the engagement already. I didn't have to do that. So real-time syncing is definitely a valuable use case on adopting the new approach. Storing data as well, where you are able to do a request to your client to upload information, which you could then use into your engagement. We'll give you a couple of demonstrations on that. The ability to draw data from different accounting sources to be able to understand what's going on in terms of your year-over-year trends, looking at high-risk transactions. I know your days in public practice, Shahbaz, all of that had to be done in a very manual way and definitely burn through the billable time very quickly when things started not aligning properly with what your initial thought process was in the pre-planning, right, Shahbaz?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think sometimes it's not a case of we couldn't do it. It's just that some other tools that we'd use, for example, if you're using Excel for like a journal sheet test, you can still do the test. But I mean, whether it be up to CPA standards or not would be up to interpretation by CPA. And again, the practice inspections often find that that's not done. But that's beyond the point. I think it's that you do the work sometimes, but it could just be done a lot faster if you have the right tools. And that's kind of what Analytics AI would do.
Perfect. Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, just to give you some thought on where we're going with the platform as well, we're looking at integrating with open APIs, with ERP systems, with CRM, integrating electronic signature, aligning with the regulatory bodies and standards in how we build our technology in the cloud. Now, today, you actually have the ability to leverage quite a bit of the cloud as it is available to you. You're able to sync up your analytics project if you had any projects at the desktop with our cloud platform. You're able to send out prepared by client requests in a very easy way using our cloud platform. You're able to use syncing capabilities in real time to be able to put in information, and by the time you work through the next part of the engagement, all the collaborative members of the engagement are able to collaborate, put feedback, raise issues or risk, depending on what you have in there. Now, as Shahbaz also mentioned earlier, or in the last few weeks, we talked about some of our pure cloud platforms where it actually completes the entire workflow from a review and comp all the way to a tax submission, both at the federal and provincial level. We talked about how we could also help you in your audits, where we have integrated prepared by client requests. We have integrated journal entry testing right within the methodology itself. But today we're going to also take a look at, if you're not using one of the integrated methodologies, how can you leverage analytics as a standalone platform provider into your own personal engagement templates? And we'll definitely look at that today. So let's get to it. Let's do a demonstration and look at how you could definitely leverage hybrid. So let's take a look at what you're already familiar with today. Caseware working papers. True and tested, one of the best technologies available today in the Canadian market with almost 30 years of experience and history and collaboration through you, the users, in making improvements and updates. But as we move the technology forward, we need to find innovative ways to solve certain challenges that we're seeing come through in the market. One of them is the ability to sync information with others without having to be in the office. With Caseware, when you integrate your projects with Caseware Cloud, it's as simple as making sure you have the syncing capability and subscribing to our cloud platform, which would then give you access to a cloud link, which you would incorporate into your working papers. Once you do that, you'll see a new tab available to you. At this point, I have the ability to push up the copy of my engagement where the parent file resides in Caseware Cloud for this respective entity, and the child copies reside with the engagement team. When they make changes, the syncing happens in real time. Shahbaz, in your days in public practice, when you had to come back to the office and you had to deal with conflicts and try to figure out who was doing what and what they worked on was quite challenging, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's always the risk of people doing work in a supporting working paper and then someone else overriding it by making changes in it.
That's good to share. So one of the ways that we address that is showing you conflicts. If you happen to have conflicts, you could resolve them here. You could roll back to a previous version of it. It gives you all of that perspective there. But another thing that it allows you to do is if I just click on Cloud, when you have the ability to log into Caseware Cloud, a portal will open up and allow you to see information differently in terms of what request has been sent out, who's working on what. You even have the ability to look at the engagements itself, and you have the ability to look at, the entities. You have the ability to see who are your contacts, what discussions you're having with them, are there any outstanding tasks you're working on, have there been any files both internally and shared with the clients, what are the different engagements. You could see that I have a working papers engagement loaded here. You get to see who does what, assigned to what discussions you have left. If you're using SmartSync to sync the information in real time, you get to see a summary of that information. It's a very powerful capability. It's a different way of working, definitely, but it provides a tremendous amount of insight and value in terms of how you're engaging your clients. That's one perspective. Shahbaz, in your time in practice, if you had the ability to have in one portal to be able to communicate, store, and collaborate with clients, would that have made saved you some time and made you a little bit more efficient with your work?
I think that more than anything, it's just about bringing the whole practice into one hub. That's kind of how I describe it. I think that, again, like all that stuff gets done in practice today, but to do it all in one place is really where the efficiency is. And I think that's when I look at Caseware Cloud and then you're able to talk to your clients in one place or to see all your engagements in one place, there's tremendous value in that aggregation.
Exactly. And that's what we're looking to achieve for our clientele, is just to give them that one experience where everything is in one place to be able to collaborate both with yourself and your clients and your engagement team. Now, the other thing I wanted to do here is, let's say we're starting an audit, and yesterday, if we had to meet a client to get their prepared by client requests prepared, Shahbaz and I would get in a car or get on the train or fly down wherever we need to go to have those interviews with the clients, gather all the paperwork we need to, and then come back to the office, right? Shahbaz, who knows how many times we spend on the road weeks at a time, making sure we meet all our clients, gather all the information. But if we have to do that tomorrow, we can't. Airports are closed. We have limited contact with mass transportation, and we want to stay safe. But however, still be able to collaborate with our clients, right, Shahbaz?
We can't really expect our clients to come in and drop off stuff anymore. I mean, even if we could meet with them, they might not want to meet with us. So
exactly. Yeah. And we however still want to collect on those billables. So let's find a creative way to be able to connect with them and be able to provide that level of expertise and information from our clients. So what I wanted to show you here is I actually opened up a query And I'm going to go through a optimizer, which allows me to answer a few set of questions to be able to drive that query. So I have the ability to use what's already provided by Caseware, or as a firm, I could create my own custom. I could then say it's a compilation. Is it a review? Is it an audit? Is it a corporate tax? Is it personal tax? We'll say it's an audit. Have you done the prior year? We'll say no. And then you'll see that as we respond to the information, it's going to scope in our different areas of our information. Would you like to request a trial balance and general ledger from the client? Yes. Are there specific documentations you want from the client? We want the articles of incorporation. We want the bylaws. We want the organizational charts, the shareholder agreement, organizational chart, the partnership agreement. And as you respond to what information you need, you'll see in the documentation, it scopes in those responses. So if I go right in here, you'll see I'm requesting a trial balance, I'm requesting a general ledger, I'm requesting the articles of incorporation. I can drag and drop documents. I could select dates. I could have yes or no answers. I could have multi-state selections, depending on how I set up the questionnaire. And then once I'm ready to send it to the client, because I've attached the client individual to the information request, I'm able to select a due date, which contact I need to send it to, send in a body of email response, and then send it over.
Just to add to that, Rohit, I think when Rohit's showing all these questions that have been generated automatically by the responses, this can be completely tailored by your firm. So if there's something that you guys ask for in a specific context or something you don't want to ask for, you can obviously customize this at either the engagement level or the template level.
Yep, that's exactly right, Shabazz. Thanks for clarifying that as well. Now, as we respond or we get the responses back from the client, we're able to accept them. We could flag it and say, I could say one of my engagement members I'm working with, which is, let's say, Alain. I could flag something, please review, and I could create an issue for them. Now, once they respond back, I can actually grab and drag and drop that document over, or take whatever documents we want and put that right into the engagement. It'll convert it into a PDF. If you happen to create a customized template and you actually want the information to come in specific areas of your engagement, you could actually set up placeholders where you could hit the receive button, and once you've accepted the responses, it will drop into your respective areas of the engagement, which we think is a very useful capability, especially when you're working remotely and you need to gather all this information. One of the major challenges that we've seen with clients is it's not just the firm, I would say, it's not about just collaborating with the client, but keeping track of what's pending, what's responded, what do we return back to the client to reiterate or re-respond, or what has been completed. Keeping track of that seems to be quite tedious when we spoke to the firms that we deal with today. Now, by applying this approach, definitely changes the game for most of our clients. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is, let's just say we happen to get all the information and we're in a planning stage of our project, our audit, and we want to understand, we're doing an interim review and we want to bring in the trial balance, we want to bring in the general ledger, trying to understand where the risks lie within the engagement, whether you're doing it during your pre-planning, your planning, your risk assessment. Let's tap into the data and let's see what the data is telling us about this engagement. Let's jump into the DeLorean. If everyone remembers Back to the Future reference, let's jump into the DeLorean. Let's go back to 2017. My client here is working and their financial review period end was December 31st, 2017. Let's go ahead and save that. And let's go ahead and import the transactions. We have different ways of where we could import data and handle data. We could bring it in from working papers. We could bring it in desktop accounting packages. We could bring in Excel and CSV documents. We could also bring it in directly from online packages. For example, in today's scenario, I'm going to use Xero. As Shabazz pointed out, many millennials are looking for opportunities of improving how they do things. And one of them, amongst many things they do online, they have their accounting package online as well. So we need to be able to adapt to that and bring in the information that's needed for our analysis itself. So we're going to go ahead and bring in 2017 data, but I'm going to bring in prior year information. We're going to bring in the transactions, and we're going to bring in the trial balance. So what we do here is we establish a secure connection to the Xero platform, and we go ahead and copy over the trial balance, as well as previous year information, as well as the transactions itself. Now, if I go to documents, let's go back to data here. You'll see the trial balance come through. You have petty cash, you have your adjustments, your current year, your previous year information, you have your financial grouping. Because we're able to bring that in, we're able to bring in the grouping information and see how that flows through. If we go down to the transaction level, we could go and see exactly what transactions make up. We could drill down on the information. We have various different indicators that we could put in. We could put in additional columns. Again, if I go back to the transactions, I could filter between certain ranges, certain amounts, certain financial groupings, certain accounts, certain sources. I could do my sample selection here where it's random, systematic, monetary unit. If it's random, it shows you the population. If it's monetary unit sampling, we show you the absolute monetary value. I think it's a very powerful way of looking at the information. But what's really interesting is, unlike before where, in traditional tools, you didn't have the ability to go from your trial balance account all the way to the transaction level. You could do that here in one flow. So if I just go to the trial balance accounts, right to the transactions, to that particular day, I can look at that information. Shahbaz, what do you think of connecting those dots together to be able to do a drill through? Is that something that would have been tedious in the past?
Yeah, I think that's great, Roy, especially when I look at like the sample selection that's something we do today, or we did as well in practice. And I think that it's another one of those examples of it's being done, and it's being done in Excel and it's working. But if you could save time on a monetary unit selection, I mean, what you're just showing over here, Roy, literally all we have to do is just select the account, select monetary unit sampling, and it'll even export the results for us in a format that we can do our working paper testing from. So I think those are the examples of efficiencies that technology can provide. I think going back, I just want to backtrack for 1 second to PBC even. When we look at today, when we talk to our clients or exchange documents, one thing that I remember in practice that was always tough was who got the information. And that was always a challenge, especially with larger engagement teams of if the client sent us something, if that wasn't forwarded amongst the whole team, and embarrassingly, there's a request sent to the client again for the same document, that was always frowned upon. Obviously, you don't want to waste the client's time, but stuff like that happens, especially with larger teams or larger engagements. To be able to see all that in one place is great. With Analytics AI, to be able to get insights from data, again, it's something the clients are going to expect from us. Like if the client's giving us their GL, Roy, I think they want us to use that to guide our engagement to make it more efficient for us and also more relevant to their industry, to their business, but also to maybe give them back some insights out of it. Like, hey, Mr. Client, we noticed this year. We noticed in a transaction at this time of the year was abnormal, or what was this? And I think that that's really what this is helping us do. I also want to highlight, just for everyone watching, if you guys see what Rohit showed us so far with PBC Analytics AI, he hasn't left case or working papers, which I think is the beauty of this whole thing. You're not changing your way of working drastically. Like, you're still working in an environment you're very comfortable with and used to, but you're able to leverage the technology and efficiencies that the cloud products provide you. So I think that's one thing I'd like to highlight as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a valid point. It's all within keeping it within that ecosystem itself. And to your point, Shahbaz, when we're working with our clients and the firms in Canada, we ask them, like, what are the risks are you looking at, and not just transactional risk, but are you looking also at the trial balance, and if it's material, and if there's risk from previous years of your knowledge of the entity, and you want to flag those specific accounts, how do we bring those insights back of knowing your entity and knowing your client? For example, I know that petty cash tends to be a trivial amount and sometimes not material, but if we go and say, hey, you know what, in petty cash, there is very high risk of personal purchases. So anything that flows through those accounts, I want to elevate the risk by 100%. So I look and pay closer attention to those transactions. We could actually do that in the platform itself. When we click on risk analysis, this is where the magic happens. where because we know the data and we understand where it's coming from, you don't have to do any mapping or any of that kind when we're pulling it in from an online package. We're able to actually drill down and look at the information in a meaningful way. Now, let's go ahead and say, what's going on with these high-risk transactions? And then we could see what transactions were triggered in high risk, what were the different test case scenarios that triggered these transactions, what journals did it affect, what were the users, what were the transactions itself. And then I have the ability to go back and make some configurations. So if we go and say, you know what, that's interesting, but I want to take a look at the journal entries. So we went from 30 to 3 high-risk transactions directly in the journal entries itself. And you could see rounded amounts, high amounts, unusual times where things were posted. It was the journal entry posting. And if I look at these particular transactions, we get to see what was the high amount, what was the rounded values, what were transactions considered posted during unusual times. And it's all about the glass box. We advise you why a certain trigger happened. Now, you're more than welcome to go and make adjustments to those triggers. So for example, we went back in time to cover everything from January the 1st to current. Well, if you just want to look in 2017, we just apply 2017, rerun the operation, and it's going to refresh our information. It's that quick. Traditionally, when you're using different tools, you have to rerun the operation. It's going to use your computer resources. You have to wait till the output comes, and then you look at the results. Over here, it's quite straightforward. Now, on the theme of a glass box, we tell you exactly what parameters, what settings, and how it impacted the general population. So not only do we run the analysis, we tell you what we did, why we did it, and why it produced the results it did. Shahbaz, going back to your time in public practice, if you had the ability to just look at the risk in a more meaningful way, how do you think that would have improved your audit overall, as opposed to doing sampling?
I think obviously the efficiency side, but even just looking at the quality of the audit, I think that would get improved. I was just reading the 2019 CPA Canada Practice Inspection Report this week, because I like to obviously keep abreast of the practice and developments, but they found that 80% of firms that had unacceptable results had not done adequate procedures on journal entries for audits. I think this is a great example of something that can help a firm in that area. What we're seeing often, what CPA Canada is seeing often in journal entry testing, is that firms are just looking at either high dollar value or amounts really around year end. And I personally believe that might just be because those are the ones that are most efficiently found with the tools you're using. Like in Excel, you can pretty straightforwardly do a high dollar value filter, but CPA is saying that we want more than that. I mean, that's not sufficient to cover off this massive risk. And so it's examples like this where you went back and you showed us, say, there's like 20 different tests you can run, from like a Benford's law all the way to timing. It's insights like this that CPA Canada wants you to derive from that data to make sure you're covering those risks.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have the traditional tests where we're doing the traditional rule-based testing, but we also have built-in AI algorithms that allow you to leverage what the new technologies through Python and high-performance algorithms offer. So we give you best of both worlds. What's very interesting is I could go ahead and save these results, and we'll put them into our planning section of our audit analytics engagement. And you'll see that I use the terminology audit analytics because I'm keeping the audit engagement independent from my analytics engagement. However, it all flows in together. Now, let's say we want to go ahead and send a file request to our client, all right? And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to my files window here, and I'm going to go ahead and make a request to our client to send us, sorry, I'll just go to activities. I'm going to make a request to my client to send me the GL file. All right. Or let's say we found significant risk in accounts payable, and I want to bring in the accounts payable file and look at that information further. I could go ahead and send that information over to our team or our client that we're auditing, and they will go ahead and upload that information. Now, I happen to save that step and save us some time, and we did that. So the client responded back and uploaded their accounts payable information. Now, IDEA or Caseware offers a full spectrum of analytics. What you've seen in front of you today is the ability to use a very guided way of performing analytics and looking at the information. And if I go back to it, let's go back to the analytics here for a second. I have the ability to then scope in other information, all right? If I wanted to bring in completeness of data or analytical overview, I could do that. And then if I go over here, you'll see my completeness of check comes in. So let me use the income statement as an example. You have your trial balance, and then you have your reconciled general ledger back to the trial balance to see if there's any differences. Shahbaz, I know from your time in practice, public practice, this was quite a tedious task for you, right?
Yeah, if you hadn't actually said anything, I was going to jump into myself there, but Rod, you're absolutely correct. This was always very tough to do. And I think what made it tough was that clients gave their GLs in different formats all the time. So although we have it in Excel, sorry, but because of the system they exported it from, the source was never the same. So you'd have to run different sorts of filters on every data set that you got to extract that. Sometimes you had a net difference calculated, sometimes you didn't. And to get that was tedious is one, but even just challenging. And I think that the fact that this does it all for you automatically, and this is a great example of how you can leverage technology to be more efficient in your practice.
Yeah, that's a great point. And then adding to that, you also have the ability to tap into your analytical overview charts to look at year-over-year changes, the relationships, the liquidity, the profitability. All these charts are available for you. Again, drag and drop. If you want to put that into your engagement, sure, no problem. Let's drag it and bring that through. If you want to look at like the notes payable, we'll show you the charts, we'll show you some information, we'll show you ratios. All of that information is there. And typically you would have to do that outside of Caseware. Say in Excel, once you have the information, all that information flows through and it gives you that data. And above that, you also have the ability to annotate. So this is the document that's produced as a summary report of your analysis, like how does it progress over a month by monetary value, what different tests to be used with what parameters. I could even make annotations here if I want to, and make some comments or recommendations for my clients to review. If I had trial balance accounts that were flagged as high risk and I want to factor that in, how did that impact? What's the monetary value there? And what's the definition of the test we did? Now, that's a lot of pre-built capability. If you want to go and do your own ad hoc analysis, Caseware does offer a platform for that as well. Again, we're one of the only, if not the only platform provider in the world that provides a full spectrum of data analytics. It could be that very turnkey use, which is what I'm demonstrating here, or it could be the deep analysis. For example, I had the client drop off their accounts payable data, and I'm going to use our desktop data analysis tool, IDEA, to perform the ad hoc analysis, chart, look for duplicates, do different summarizations. So I'm going to log into the project in the cloud, and what you'll see here is I have that accounts payable data. I simply just say click on download to my local copy, and you'll see that it will now show up right here on my computer. Now, if I want to be able to import that into IDEA, very simple. I just go right click, import my data. It recognizes it as an Excel file, and I'm going to go ahead and bring that in. So from here, I have the ability to do my ad hoc analysis. I can look at the data, look at the different information that's provided. If I want to go ahead and say, let's do a quick summarization by approver on paid vouchers. So it allows me to quickly summarize that data. If I want to be able to do some visualizations on it, I have the ability to actually do that as well. I could say I could drill down on these transactions. I could make it visual if I want to. Sky's the limit on what you could do. You could apply different visualization models. So you could do a pie chart, horizontal. There's a lot of capabilities built in. So you could do your ad hoc analysis here very quickly. You could also tap into, let's say, our smart analyzer capability, and then tap into predefined content as well. So there's a lot of information that's available to you. So if I go and say, I want to do accounts payable tests, I could just go ahead and bring the data in, go to my library of subledger tests, go to accounts payable, and you'll see there's tests available for me to run. And just to save us some time, I ran them, which then generated the following result. And I'll open the work paper for you, and so you could see through IDEA, I ran the tests and I generated the work paper here. And if I want to link this findings with a particular document in my working papers through the use of Caseware Connector, I'm able to interlink Microsoft Excel and Word documents to a particular procedure or a document within working papers itself. So I could go ahead and put that there as a reference, and it'll interconnect that for us. So now when I click on that, it'll show up there. Or I could simply just drag and drop the information right to working papers, and it'll be able to flow that information through as well. So there's different ways you could look at the data. Now, here's the best part. I know that some of you might say, okay, well, if we're done the engagement, we want to do our lockdown procedure, we want to be able to disconnect from the PDC query as well as from the audit analytics engagement. However, for retention purposes, we've got to keep 7 years of history. How do we do that? Well, it's as simple as unlinking the file from these particular responses. So now I've unlinked the analytics engagement, I've unlinked the PDC query, I now have my clean working papers file, which then I can move towards lockdown. Shahbaz, looking at these innovative capabilities, what do you think of the experience now going forward by harnessing the firms with these tools and capabilities?
Yeah, I think it's great, right? I think it goes back to the earlier theme I spoke about of clients' expectations, right? I think when a client gives you all their data, they're expecting you to use that data to drive meaningful results for them and for your engagement. I think there's tools like this that helps you do it. I think based on CPA inspections, it's evident and it's clear that what we're doing at firms today with the tools we have is not enough. And I think that's a reality we all have to face. And I think it's tools like this that are going to help us do enough. And I think it's the time we all reevaluate our tools. And I think not just from a COVID perspective or changing working or the way we work perspective, even from an engagement perspective, like, are we doing enough on our engagements? And I think you start from there, you look at your engagements first, and then you look at your staff, and you look at the way you collaborate with your clients, and you start rebuilding or transitioning your practice to how you want it to be in the future.
Yeah, those are some valuable points, Shahbaz. I think, you might say, what's next? Well, let's reevaluate and take the time to understand what are your current and future needs. Collaborate with our members at Caseware. Shahbaz and I we're definitely here to take your calls or your emails if you have any questions or comments. We have Aaron Oliver, which is our Director of Sales here as well, which you've definitely collaborated with in the past. We're all here to support you in this transition. These are some trying times. You need to reinvent how you're approaching your clients, how you're engaging your clients, how do you run your practice today and building the practice for the future. We're here to evaluate your needs, so definitely reach out to us. Talk to us about your firm's strategy. Aaron Leckie, who's our head of product development, who's also a CPA, has been with the organization for almost 5 years and loves to hear from our clients, understanding where are you going with your firm, what technologies are you considering, what are the challenges you're faced with on a day-to-day. We love to hear your feedback, so then us as a technology provider could continue to provide that solution for you as you continue to use our Caseware platforms. Think about how do you incorporate some of these new capabilities that we've demonstrated. So one thing is looking at how do we take the information and use the Caseware Cloud Portal to be able to store your data, collaborate with your clients, perform syncing in real time using SmartSync integrated with Caseware Cloud. How do we leverage all of that? How do we leverage data analytics? Data analytics, Shahbaz could comment on this, in the past was meant for the top 50 accounting firms, right? Not anymore. You could see the simplicity of these tools make it more accessible for you. Leverage what they've built in the past to be able to improve on that and put the power into your hands. What does that mean for you? You can now go into your engagement with your clients and say, hey, not only can I do your engagement, but we can also give you a health check on your financials by looking at different areas of risks within your organization of the transactions itself. That provides better value, and I think, you know, depending on the client base that you're tapping into, let's say, for example, millennials, they would appreciate that more than a sampling of certain transaction to say, seems like it's okay, but we're not 100% sure. Be able to do 100% of that testing will definitely elevate the effectiveness of your audit, but also the quality of your audit. So think about how can you leverage these into your platform. So we're happy to answer any questions you may have. I know we have a few minutes left, but I also wanted to put our contact details there just in case you have some information you want to share with us. If you want to have your portfolio reviewed, please contact us. We will set up some time, go over what you have today and where we think the technology could be of value to your firm and how you should potentially leverage some of the technologies that's available. So please give us a call. If not, I would start by emailing us and we're happy to help. Shahbaz, do you see any questions come through?
Yeah, definitely I do. So again, yeah, we're short on time, but you and I will stick around after 2 o'clock. So if anyone does have any more questions that we don't get to, I know some people might have to leave at 2, but we'll be here to address any questions. Rohit, on that note, let's take some questions now. I do see one over here, and I had a feeling this was going to come up as a popular one. Rohit, could you talk about the security of our cloud products?
Security is the backbone of our entire infrastructure. We think security first above all. In the Canadian market, your data center is located here in Canada. So all the data that you provide and upload to Caseware Cloud is behind a Canadian data center. Secondly, we have our ISO 27001 certification. We have our SOC 2 Type 1, Type 2 certification. We have our PCI certification as well. Name the security certification, we definitely went through the process of getting that acquired. We also have our Caseware Cloud platform independently reviewed. It's actually referenced on our website through Ernst & Young, so that information is also available. And we use not just banking grade encryption, we use military grade encryption. So, you know, we are definitely ready for Corona and whatever it could throw at us.
Perfect. Rohit, another question that we have over here is what kind of training is available to learn these products? If you could just speak to the different options available for implementations and training.
Absolutely, absolutely. World of desktop is very different from the world of cloud. The world of cloud should require very minimal training. You should be able to just reference a few documentation and getting going. There's a vast amount of information available on documents.caseware.com where you're able to see how the different components work and how they interact. Just go into Google, type in Caseware Cloud, and you'll be able to see all sorts of documentations where we cover the PVC, the real-time syncing, Analytics AI. We cover all of those different components that we presented today. You're able to do that. So the short answer to your question is it's a very short learning curve, and there's a tremendous amount of documentation available. But above and beyond that, we also offer one-on-one implementation sessions to help you get started. So we provide that through our client success and implementation service.
And just to add to that also, we do have support that a lot of our working papers and our cloud users rely on, and that support obviously carries on to our cloud products as well. Ro, we have a question over here. Someone's asking, how can they access these solutions today?
That's a very good question, and it's very simple. Email us, let us know, so we're able to understand who we're speaking with, and then our team will evaluate the platform that you're on today, and then set up a meeting so we can have a conversation on looking at what you have today, what can you benefit from in the near future, and then set up, say, trials or access to the information you need.
Perfect. So that's all for the questions that we had come in. And we'll be happy to look at your tools that you have in your practice today and see ways that you can change or or improve your way of working for the future. I think that it's a period of rapid change, but also rapid opportunity, and going forward, we'll be able to help you guys capitalize on those opportunities.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. Good afternoon and have a great day.
Thank you.